Perhaps we can take one live question. There's Sayed Rizvi. I'm going to allow you to talk, and then I think you can unmute and ask your question directly.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So my question is that when we apply, I'm working as a study coordinator at one of the research centers and cardiology clinics. So when we write our research experiences, do we mention that in the work experiences, or and if we have any publications which are ongoing and they're going to be maybe published next year in JACS or any other journals, so can we write that like under publications or going to be published, or how should we frame that in our resume? And also, if we have had any abstracts or posters which have been presented or have participated in any competitions, but they're not yet published, where should we write that in our resume? Thank you.
Working is still.
So perhaps Dr. Ahmer, if you can take that question since it pertains to the CV.
So you don't necessarily have to have a publication in order to list it on your CV. If it's a poster, you can list that separately as a section or subheader of poster. And you can, if you presented that poster at a conference, then you can, under the poster subheading or under the description of that poster, you can also list that it was presented at this event on this date and time, or what have you. So just because something is not published, it doesn't mean that it cannot be listed under the appropriate heading of your CV. It should just be consistent in your format. Similarly, if you have an abstract that is not yet published, you can list it under an abstract section, and you can say pending. You can just delineate that it has not been published yet, or it is pending publishment if it is in the process of being published.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll take a question from the Q&A box. Nalini asks, when people say that you can apply late, what exactly do they mean? Is it completely okay to still apply in December when interviews have already gone out? And that's for...
I can give the answer. But before we go, I just want to, from the previous question, I would say that's the whole goal, that you have to, what you have done, you need to get a credit. So you should explain in your CV what research work you have done, what publications you have, what contribution is there. Some people have contributed in some research project, but they're not given a credit of authorship. I still think you should mention it, that you were involved in that project. There are many projects where you will not get the credit as an authorship. So, all these informations are important. Program director wants to know about it. So that's what I would say. And I 100% agree what Dr. Jaffrey mentioned it. Now, as far as the question that, Shifa, can you restate the question again for me, please?
Sure. So it says, when people say that you can apply late, what exactly do they mean? Yeah. Is it completely okay to apply in December when interviews have already gone out?
Well, you missed the boat. I think there is no harm in applying, but getting the position is highly unlikely that you will get interviews because most of the time the interview slots are full. There are rare exceptions where we see some progress. For example, somebody told you to apply in this program and they are still interviewing it, and somebody gives you a commitment that you should apply. It's just like a personal discussion based on that. But if you ask my honest opinion, I think it will be too late to get into the residency training if you're applying in December. Be prepared on the very first day that your application is full. That's how you will maximize your chances.
Thank you so much. And next we have a hand raised by Sana K. Hussain. I'm going to allow you to talk, and then you can ask your question directly.
Assalamu alaikum. Can people hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Dr. Sana. I just graduated in 2020, and I'm applying for this math cycle. So I have a few questions pertaining to the preference signaling in the supplemental ERAS. That is a new requirement for most internal medicine residency programs. It's a bit confusing as IMGs because you're supposed to name five programs that you want to match into so that residency programs know where you want to go. But as IMGs, we're kind of, this might be the wrong statement to say, but beggars can't be choosers. That's what my dad tells me, unfortunately. So we're trying to apply everywhere. How can we, and we're going to go wherever they're going to take us because we want a residency. But how do we use that and apply it to the preference signaling? Because I'm slightly confused. If I want to go to the West Coast where my family is, but I also have family in Illinois, and maybe location is the reason why I want to go to those programs. And if I don't mention a program in my preference signaling, will they think that I don't want to go there? So there's quite a bit of minutia that people are looking into over here, and I thought I could ask you guys because you've been so helpful. I hope that's good. So thank you.
Okay, and then if I can ask, did you want to direct it to someone specifically, or
anyone who can answer, because honestly, it's kind of all up in the air over here concerning the supplemental ERAS. Thank you so much.
Probably Zuhair will be the best person to answer this.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't have much information. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to help you there. Because from my experience is you want to narrow down to specific programs that you want to apply to. It doesn't matter whether it's West Coast, East Coast. So that's my recommendation I have. Because I know you mentioned you want to apply everywhere and just want to get in somewhere, but I don't think that's the right approach. So like, if you're just like focusing on internal medicine, just focus on internal medicine. Don't worry about West Coast, East Coast, wherever you fit the criteria, wherever you end up getting interviews, most likely that's where you're gonna go. And it's a matter of 3 years. After 3 years you'll be with your family, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Of course, that's not an issue. It's just that in the supplemental ERAS, they want you to name 5 programs. How do you pick those 5 programs? That's what we're concerned with. Like we can pick one from like every corner, but what about the programs we don't pick? Won't they feel like, hey, they didn't pick us, why should we even give them an interview? So supplemental ERAS is kind of, I would say, a curveball that's thrown at us because we don't know how to go about it.
Yeah,
so maybe that's the only concern.
Maybe if I can say something here, is that it's an impossible situation. So I don't think that anyone can give an answer to you. It's just you have to go with the best guess and based on your situation, because as you have mentioned yourself, and if I put myself in your shoes, it'll be almost impossible for me to say these are the 5 programs I want to go. It's just, you go with the best approach, that the best gut feeling that you have, and then just go with where you think your chances of getting matched are highest, and that's what you go with. I don't know if other panelists may chime in, but I don't think that there is any way anyone can answer this question to tell you, like, give you a matrix that this is how you go by.
Thank you so much for your help. I think at the end of the day, it is all up to God. So inshallah, wherever we're meant to end up, we will. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I just want to make a point, Sana, regarding this supplemental ERAS. I think this is a lot of people don't know about this because it's a new feature which was offered recently, from what my understanding is. And the reason being the same issue you mentioned very rightly, and I probably will be speaking later on, but I will open up a little portion of my talk, is it's a it's a curveball. It's identification between are you really interested or are you desperate? And if you're really interested in a particular region, I would say go to that, because this is your choice. This is not the program's choice. This is your choice. And you have don't think about the program where you're not applying. Think about the program of the region, what you're choosing. If you are really genuinely interested in that, then go with that, rather than trying to make every program happy, because then it will look like a desperate effort, and you really don't want to do that. And it's a whole big subject, which definitely trickles down and boils down to the interview, where you will be sitting in front of them and they want to know, are you really genuinely interested in this field and in this program? So I think what Dr. Hassani just mentioned, there is no right answer, but the person who can answer it correctly is you yourself. Whether you want to go to those 5 programs which you choose, and definitely you have your reasons. We all talked about the interview. There are questions that the program can ask. They may not ask where your family, what's your preference, and that's what all comes down to your interview when you're actually sitting in front of them.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Safwan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shifa. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have a couple of other people that want to ask live questions. We have Ali Akbar Rajani, so I'm going to allow you to talk, and then if you can unmute, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali. I wanted to ask, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So as like a non-US IMG, with perhaps like minimal or zero experience in research, how would you get research in a US journal or get involved with a US study group so that you could develop that for your application? That's the question. Thank you.
So I can answer that question. So so you want to just basically do research with someone in the US, correct? That's the question.
That's the question, but ideally it would be remotely instead of in person.
Or remotely. Remotely is going to be difficult. And what's your what specialty are you going to apply to?
Oncology or cardiology, so most likely internal medicine. Yes.
Internal medicine. Okay, so then what I would do is like you would probably need to like do some Google search and find some internal medicine physician who is basically do research as well, and try to connect with them. But remotely may be difficult, because remotely, the most you can do is probably do a literature review, write up a protocol, and maybe write up the abstract at the end. So there's not much you can do remotely unless they send you the data, and you can use your other skill sets to analyze. So it's like a whole package. Yeah, I would look for someone. Do you have connection? Do you know someone in the US who's internist, who is involved in research? If you can't find anyone, email Shifa, and then I'll take you.
Okay, brilliant. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone.
Okay, so email Shifa. Like, I'm not specific to one program. So like, I do research for all the programs that was listed. So I can always, like, I have projects going on. So if I have a project that's internal medicine related, I can definitely add you and make you do something.
That'd be great. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Shifa, it will be, it will be better if the candidates don't mind telling what field they're interested in when they're asking the question, because then it will be easier for us to answer the question as well.
So, Shifa, can you please ask Dr. Rajani, what is his skill set? Like, has he done any research before? Or Dr. Rajani, can you answer my question? Like, what's your background is like in terms of research?
So at this moment in time, I've got almost zero experience in research. All I've done is read a lot of papers for specific projects with my university. I'm in my 4th year of medicine, so my course doesn't really have much research component, unfortunately.
Typically, it's not an external. I mean, I agree. My panelist was saying connect you with that, but you have to come up with your own way. How we do. For example, I work with the research with the candidates in Turkey and in different places because we have projects, mutual projects going on. Some projects we don't need people to be physically present in our oncology field. For you, I would really think that, first you have to figure it out, your point of interest, reach out the group of the people and what skill set you have. For example, some people are really good at reading the sequencing data. What we do for our oncology, I have a hard time to find anybody in the US who can do the project for me. So I pay somebody in India to do that project for me. So this is how you build up the thing. So skill set is important. And what Dr. Hasni has mentioned about extra courses. And when you have those things and you email, look at the PubMed, look at the senior authors for the papers and study, reach out, email them directly that this is your area, I would like to do the research. It's not like just filling the gap, getting an appetizer with a case report or one review article. Of course, it has a value, but if you have time, you really want something meaningful, something that shine your CV. So you want some innovative work. So I personally can tell you that if you really look at the PubMed, look at the senior authors who have done it, reach out to them. If you send 2,000 emails, 5 people will respond to you that we have a project for you. How about this? Can we do this together? And that's what called the right connection. This is how you will find the person who can work with you. And that is, most of us have that type of a story. So I would really encourage you, having a skill set, read about the people, what research they are doing, and then dive into that and reach out to their senior authors and ask them about the project.
I just want to quickly say one thing, which probably be important for Ali Akbar and for rest of the people, that both what Zuhair and Shahzad have said are very important things. So one is to build up your skill set by doing some extra courses. I think I've listed some of them there. The other thing is that when you approach somebody who's doing clinical research, they're always looking for people who can help, but you need to have something that you can offer, because it's very difficult. For example, if I'm doing clinical research, it's very difficult for me to take somebody on who has no experience with clinical research just because they want to work with me, because it takes so much of my time and my effort to get them to the point that they can be actually valuable to me. But if you're bringing them that, okay, I've done these courses, I have this skill set, and this is what I have in mind, and can you please help? Then I think you have a better chance of being involved in research.
I'd like to say one thing too, from a cardiology point of view, and this is to all the candidates, try to be aggressive and show initiative. So all of the faculty here have shown many different ways, and Dr. Razo is saying you have to make your own story. So, you could even find programs that later on you'd be interested in, try to find research in the same programs. You're ahead of the game, and try to find opportunities in that way. That'll help you later on.
I'll add one more thing. If anyone has a good research question that you need a mentor in to basically get your project to completion and get published, if you have a good research question and you have like kind of protocol ready to go, you can email me, because I can definitely get data from our HCA system, and I'll add you onto the project. So this is your project. The only thing is, like, for me will be difficult is, like, I would not be able to add you as first author, because it has to be one of our residents from whatever program I have, but I can definitely add you like as a second author if someone's already on that path. Thanks.
And Dr. Shahan.
Yeah, I have a completely different perspective. I agree what the whole panelists say, but if I heard correctly, you're a fourth-year medical student, right?
Correct.
Correct. So again, there are some recommendations which are generalized, and it's good to pick up from them, but then you have to cater it down to your own personal need. My biggest question at this point is, as a fourth-year medical student, why you even want to go into research? Like, is it again, you may not have to, you don't have to share your whatever you're dealing with right now, but sit down, talk to someone, see. The scores are the utmost important, as Dr. Raza mentioned in his opening. If you really focus on your score and you're achieving high score, that's the priority at this point. Then comes avoid a gap. Taking a gap for a research, as Dr. Ali mentioned in his presentation, not every program director wants that. Yes, it's preferred in few fields if you're applying for a university program, not for a community program. The third thing is what kind of research, what field are you applying to? And is it really worth spending the time on that in the drop of what you're preparing for? So again, my perspective is study yourself and what you need, and then build up. Don't just say, don't just go because yes, there is a research there. As one of the presentation by Dr. Ali said, only 23% of the program director prefer residents with research, otherwise they don't care. So why you want to go in that? It does increases your chances, but it helps to add on to the deficit you already have. If you don't have any deficit, and as a fourth year medical student, I would say do something for your, actually put more time on your scores and stuff. But if you have extra time and you want to do something in your fourth year medical student as a career, that's really good. Do it and avail that opportunity, but not at the cost of sacrificing your time for your score or doing a very valuable elective which you can do at any hospital or something like that. Maybe if, I don't know if other people agree with that.
No, that sounds very, very reasonable.
Dr. Shahan, go ahead, Dr. Moniz.
Sorry?
Dr. Moniz, we can hear you.
Yeah, so can I add something? So I think I disagree with Shahan a little bit. We are good friends, so it's okay to disagree. So I think this is the best time to start doing some research, because once you start doing the residency training, it's really hard to do this kind of stuff. But definitely in the medical school, not at the expense of your scores. So what Ali can do is, so if there are a lot of groups, like I know like multiple groups in cardiology who are doing remote research. So how they do is they do meta-analysis, they do some systematic reviews, and they have published a lot. So you guys from sitting outside the US, so one of the things you can do is you can get into one of those groups, but definitely you need to know how to do meta-analysis, how to do this kind of stuff. And there are a lot of online courses. Once you have, I think, good grasp of those, and you get into those groups, so you would get a lot out of those groups. Like you have like a lot of publications before you apply for the residency and fellowship. And one other thing which I quickly want to add. So being an IMG, like the research is very difficult for us. Like coming from Pakistan and India, so we didn't have a lot of research opportunities. So it's really hard to make a research question once, specifically if you are a medical student. So one thing, if someone is applying for a research from Pakistan, India, the one thing which you guys should concentrate on, try to get a research with a good mentor. Just concentrate on getting a research with a good mentor who can get you into the residency, because the publication will always take time. Like if you go like in a basic lab research, it will take like years for a publication to come. But if you get into with a good mentor, even if you don't have a publication on your CV, he will get you a residency spot, and that's what matters for most of IMDs at the end of the day. Definitely, once we get into, then we definitely need a lot of research to go into academics, to go into fellowship. But I think when you're applying for research from like being an IMG from the outside, you always concentrate getting a research spot with an excellent mentor who can get you into a residency spot. Thanks.
I would like to add Moniz and Shahan both views on it. I think if you look at the original presentation, it's not like everybody has to do research, and we don't want this research dominant seminar that this is an important part. No, each candidate is very different and very unique. and the type of the specialty you're applying. Primary care, if your goal is to be a family medicine practice, primary care medicine, you have excellent scores. The first step is score, passing an exam with an excellent report. So that's your first goal. You have that. I don't think that you have to do this innovative research, spending time, because you are going for a clinical job. You're not going for a research job, because we are focusing on residency training. So that's for someone who is applying for primary care, family medicine, or internal medicine with good scores. Now there is another candidate who has excellent scores. He is looking for an academic, strong position in the university program. One of the top-notch program is looking for. His goals are to be an advanced training in something is subspecialty. Yes, he needs to start working it on from the beginning, looking for some research programs as well, because that's his goal. He's looking for his long-term accomplishment. And we do see the candidates who have a tough time getting into residency, but they have like a lot of research and papers, and the fellowship is easy because they have done so much work. So hard time, it always pays off later. Now the third scenario is like someone who is looking for a psychiatry, and Shahan can attest that thing. They like to see the experience, a clinical experience, what you have done in psychiatry, why you are interested, or the same thing applied to neurology, why you are interested, what have you done before. And in these cases, yes and no. The research can help if it is very meaningful, a quality work you have done with someone who really helped you, mentor you, and program director likes things. For example, I'm throwing it out a topic, psychological diseases after COVID era. This is an interesting topic. Many people will like it. So something that you have done innovative study and research, and with that particular specialty, they like it. I think it has to be individualized with each and everyone's goal and what your end goal you're looking for. And don't mind that you are going for a clinical job. The first step, get into the good score, and that has to be a focus. Second part, third part, fourth part, it will come out and you will grow. And it has to be individualized, depends on the field what you are looking for. Thank you.
Perfect. So there's a couple of other hands raised. So thank you, Ali Akbar, for your question. Oh, I apologize. If you can raise your hand again, I'll ask you to hear it. Sorry, please finish your thought.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everyone on the panel with all, even with the differing opinions. I'm just grateful for the justification and the insight. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mahnur. I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so we're kind of in a group listening to the lecture together. So my name is actually Daniel from Mahnur's computer.
Perfect.
So one of my questions was that for research, as far as research goes, I know we've talked a little bit about it, but if you do research and say you're applying for neurology, but you do research in cardiology or you do research in pediatrics or something similar, would that be just as meaningful as if it wasn't in neurology?
I mean, something's better than nothing, but it's not going to be meaningful. So if you're applying for neurology, you should focus on neurology type of research or whatever field you're applying to.
Okay. We have, as a group, we have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you, another question, because I will be applying for neurology. I have letters of recommendation in internal medicine as well as neurology, but can I use those IM letters for neurology as well?
Yes, you can use it. And if your letters are from a neurology team, that would always be good. But I would say you can use internal medicine letter as well, but it has to be at least one or two neurology letters if you are applying in neurology. And back to your first question about the research in cardiology, I 100% agree. It all depends in the end what your interest is. They really like to see that you're not applying in neurology as a backup specialty. And that's what your skill, how you will prove it during the interview. I can tell you that some people have a case report in psychiatry and then another case report in medicine. And this is like a 60 to 70% candidates we have similar thing, that different research, because you don't have that opportunity to work in one area which you would really like it, and that is what it is. But you know what I would do if I was in place of you, I will find my strength in that cardiology research that I will use it for neurology during the interview. For example, in that cardiology research, you have done epidemiology study and you have done something meaningful. You can convince the interviewer when they ask you how come neurology if you have done in cardiology, then yes, that answer you need to prepare, and then you say that what you are looking for, you're looking for the skill, what you learn in the research in cardiology, and you will use it in neurology. So you're basically making your weakness into your strength, and that's an art that everybody has a different view of looking into the things, but I will look at it in this way, how you can use your cardiology research into the neurology. But you have to have a very valid and very good reason, and looking into the details, not about the subject, but about the way that research was done. That I think can make a difference here. Otherwise, it will not make a huge difference.
I would like to pitch in with, I agree with Dr. Raza, and a prime example I will just give in the field of psychiatry, as we are very specific. A person was doing a rotation in endocrinology clinic, and as far as you're able to justify and come up with your strength in that rotation, and that person, and I remember that answer because it was very unique. I like, how do you justify you couldn't do any psych rotation? You're like, no, this is the only thing I could find. But I tell you, I find so many people going through depression, and I was like, what do you mean? And he opened up with a very good, beautiful answer, which is clinical relevance, that a lot of patients with hypothyroidism present with clinical depression. And at that point, we started implementing PHQ-9 in the patient. And that's opened the topic. That showed that person is interested in that field and has the understanding. So as long as whatever you're doing and you can come up with a strength, that you are able to justify it and hold on to your interest. That's number one. Number second is, if you're really not finding anything and you're sitting home, as Dr. Ali says, something is better than nothing. Go there, and you may be able to get some connection and some good letter of recommendation from them. And the letter of recommendation should mention that this person is really interested in the neurology field. If his interest was in cardiology, I would have taken that person. As Dr. Raza mentioned, these are strong letters, strong lines, which will reflect your interest and put a seal and stamp that this guy is really interested in neurology, but unfortunately, he didn't get any rotation or experience in neurology. So that's my take on that.
I'd like to comment a little bit from a cardiology perspective. There's a lot of overlap between cardiology and neurology. And so it's that can be used as well. A lot of vascular medicine and a lot of vascular biology. So as the doctors were saying, you can use that in your statement, you can use that in your interviews, but also your letter of recommendation can maybe say a progression of thoughts. You were interested in vascular medicine or, that type of pathology, and that's how you progress from one to the other.
And you're all doing this in the COVID era. So with the COVID, a lot of opportunities are not out there for you to, which would normally be available to you. So you can literally play that card too. Hey, with COVID, this is the only opportunity that I got, and I took it. And then from there, but that's not enough. You got to kind of build on it that this is what you learned from it. This is how you can apply those skills. This is how you acquired those skills, and this is how you're going to apply those skills in the field of your interest that you're applying to. So you still have to kind of make that connection. and people will actually, give you the benefit of the COVID situation. So you can use that to your advantage too. That's basically using, dealing with what the situation is, but using that to your advantage and using that as a strength.
I really
Also,
appreciate.
Daniel, I think you can also use your personal statement to support your switch or whatever you have done. So that's another, because you could explain your situation during interview, but you need to get an interview. So personal statement would be another part where you can support your switch from cardiology to neurology. And I agree with all the faculty thoughts.
I really appreciate the really thoughtful answers you guys have given, and kind of just different techniques in order to how to play, or how to use that, and how to kind of build on that. I was also interested in asking, just for the sake of asking, if any of you know anybody personally that is currently conducting neurology research in the greater Philadelphia area, whether that be clinical or whether that just be experimental trials or anything.
We can look and look for it, and offline we can get in touch and find you somebody.
Yeah, for sure. If you can send me an email, and then at least we have that record, and we can start working on finding that for you. But thank you so much for your question. I have a couple of other hands that are raised. I have one, Sukaina Zaidi. I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, hello, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for putting this together. My name is Sukaina. I'm a fourth-year medical student applying for neurology as well. And I'm creating my list of residency programs. Wanted to get some insider information on anyone who has experience on both the West Coast and the East Coast. Things that I keep hearing are that on the East Coast, the programs are malignant, the duty hours aren't really respected, things like that. So if anyone could comment on that, that would be great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think you have, and I will be very direct for you so that you can improve yourself. Do not think in this way. That's my first thing. Malignant programs and things, these are the negative thoughts. And trust me, when you are going for the program interview, that thought will come out from your mind somehow, unintentional. That's something that you have to change the mentality. No program is malignant. If you have a quality and you're good, program will like you to take it. I've never seen anything exist like this, malignant, abuse, and the hours. If you go to this debate, I think you're going to get stuck and you will not get successful. And that's my answer is, as a junior faculty, when we start our career, we have a lot of time that they're doing a lot of stud work sometimes. But this is how it is. I would never look into that conversation malignant. What I look at it, quality. Okay, how much research they have, what's the career growth they have, how they train the graduate, how they mentor the graduates. Because right now, this conversation, when I told you not to think about it, you may think, okay, let's stop thinking about it. But my experience is this, when you have an interview, you will come up with something crazy question to the director or something. You know what Dr. Bajat discussed in her talk, asking for the questions about the duty hours and things. That's not a way you do during the interview with the director. Yes, I mean, although some people do ask these questions to residents, but I can tell you, I've been in the directorship position. So one of the things, we ask the residents who actually give you a tour or give you some locations and ask them what were they asking? Oh, they are asking too much. Looks like that resident does not need to work. He wants to stay, do the light job and go home and a little bit. It's a negative things come up. So I would not really look into that as a thing. Yes, there are programs, but it's not the way the system works. System is being checked up with an ACGME by regular way, and there's a lot of ways the program has been looked into. So your goal is to get into the program which matches your goal. That's the key part.
So I want to add to this. So it depends. Definitely, Shahzad bhai, ACGM is there, but definitely few programs are definitely malignant. If you go to bigger cities anywhere, like starting from New York City, so the thing is, being an IMG, it's different. If you have option, I would prefer not to go to a malignant program, because the thing is, yes, definitely malignancy is there. Yes, definitely that will affect your learning, because the thing is, if you just keep on working, and if you don't have any lectures, some programs do have this kind of a structure, then you are not going to learn anything. So I think general impression is the bigger cities, like their program, because since they are busy, so they are little bit malignant. That's my point.
So I would like to add something. I think we should use this as an opportunity to teach our younger colleagues as to how do we, people have been through the process, how do we define a quality residency program? And I think that's what the bottom line that Sukina is trying to ask is, I've not heard anything between East Coast and West Coast. I mean, I've heard of, rappers having fight between East Coast and West Coast, but I have not heard of any difference in programs and stuff. But, irrespective, let's not use the word malignant. Let's just see how we can tell them as what defines a good, solid or good quality, high quality residency program. And when I was doing this, the old standard was, our university program is a good quality program. And I think having been gone through the process, I think it's pretty safe to say that is not simply a good, alone on its own is not a good barometer of whether the program is good or not. You can have bad university programs where all you do is work and don't get to do any academics. And you have community programs where they encourage you to do research. You don't have a university certificate at the end, but you come out with very strong clinical skills because you get more opportunity to do hands-on things. So, the bottom line is, instead of looking at whether programs malignant or not, duty hours or not, look at what the product that they're producing, like talk to the senior residents and see how confident they are about what they're doing. Because when I was applying for internal medicine residency, I knew I wanted to do a fellowship, and I was not sure what's cardiology, pulmonology. I was asking their match rates, where their fellows were going as, and where the residents were going as fellows, were they going to good programs? So that was one barometer that I was using for a good quality program, and what kind of research opportunities I had in that program. Not the kind of research that I had done already, but what opportunity I would have during the residency. Because if I want to do cardiology, I would need to do research. So I was looking at these two parameters as my the strongest thing. And again, that's something, if you are clear about in your mind what you want to get to, you want to do a fellowship, you want to do internal medicine, you want to go into academics. If you're clear about that, you want to do neurology later on, or you want to do some other, in terms of a residency. If you're clear about that, that will help you define what a good program is. Instead of looking at malignant and duty hours, you'll be looking at, this is what fits my goal, this is what meets my objectives, this is second, this is third, and this does not meet my objectives at all.
Yeah, I think you guys, they can, I think Shabir may ask about didactics as well, because that's very important, like in a good program where they have good lecture series, good didactics, that helps the trainee as well.
And also, I wouldn't worry about duty hours, because programs take that very seriously. And residents these days, they're very vocal. So if they're approaching duty hours, they'll tell the program director, and they make adjustments. So this is one of ACGME requirements. So I would take that out of your mind. Don't worry about duty hours. Worry about everything else.
And the other. Sorry, Shahzad.
No, go ahead, Shahzad.
Yeah. Just want to add one thing. Is duty hours, as Dr. Ali said, that definitely ACGME takes it very seriously. Programs are on top of it. no matter East Coast, West Coast. One thing on which, whether it's ACGME or program or even CIR, we have a resident union as well, they don't compromise is patient care. Anytime there's patient care compromise, they don't ask how many duty hours, but definitely they will look into how exhausted you are. So believe me, there is watch on both the side. And again, the focus should be that the quality of program. That I 100% agree, if you want to filter that out. The other second point I want to make is at this point, the focus should, your focus should be how to prepare yourself. Since I'm pretty sure, as you said, that you're fourth year, you will be applying for the first time. The purpose of this seminar is to prepare you for the real world. Keep in mind the competition is really, really tough. I have seen candidates, and as Dr. Raza mentioned, it should be very straightforward. I've seen people have their priorities and bullet points, very specific what they want, and unfortunately they don't match, and then their priorities change it. And I'm not discouraging anyone, but unfortunately that's the reality. So go with an open mind. That's my take should be. Go with open mind, set your priority, and don't carry unnecessary thought and unnecessary burden, because that's only going to limit and narrow you down.
I'd like to make two suggestions. I've had the opportunity to be on both of the coasts, so maybe directly to answer the sister's question. And not much difference. It's as the doctors have been saying, if you have a good quality program, they have the same culture. And so you just want to be a good resident yourself as much as you can, because that's where you're going to learn the most. So if I could go back, I would try my harder to learn more, see more cases, experience more things. And that's what you're there for. So just focus on that. But the doctor that mentioned also that you want to make sure that they do have the didactics, or you get the time to go to the morning report, or you actually can do those things, that does help too. So talking to, say, maybe some of your classmates that have been to some of these programs who have similar experiences as you, that can help you gauge some of these programs. Thank you.
Since you're involved, you would like to do neurology. I think if you look at it, all the speakers, what they mention about focus on quality, what you want, that's a key part for this whole the goals, what you're looking for. One thing I would say, where I have seen there is a coordinated way, the USMLE forum and different forums, I have seen it where people post this type of information that the malignant program don't go there. But if you look at the data, they are the ones who are actually joining those programs, because that's the way you can create a problem, and the candidates like you can easily get into that program is malignant, look at it on the forum what has been written. I think it's a quality. I do agree that there's some programs focuses more on the work than education, that you can pick it up when you have a rank order list, that okay, this is the program I like, this is the program I don't like. They have this type of way of moving, and I like my own way version. Like, if you have a choice, and that is where the difference is. If you don't have a choice, that's the best you have, and you have to take this thing as a granted that okay, this is the choice I'm getting. Area and location, that comes up. For example, some of the programs in New York, for example, there are in an area where there is a high crime rate, or something that's not safe for the girls or the boys. I mean, they're going to that program. Yes, you can always look as a factor, and when you are making a rank order list, you make the decision. So in the end, it all comes up what your goals are and what choices you have, and that would allow you to make the decision. But try to avoid this mindset, because unintentionally, if any word come out from your mouth or something during the interview or during the conversation, it can affect your application. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, Sukaina. I'm gonna ask Hassan to talk. I'm going to allow you to talk if you can unmute and ask your question, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You can ask your question.
Okay. Hi, so my name is Hassan Raza. I am a final year medical student at the Khan University, Karachi, Pakistan. And I'm currently in the United States right now doing my elective. So that's actually what I wanted an advice on. I have a 1 month elective and I have to choose between two options. So one of those options is doing a 4-week hospital research elective. Now I understand the research elective is only going to be for 4 weeks, and I'll probably be able to only publish case reports, case series, and get an experience of how research is like in the United States. But I'll be able to get a personalized LOR out of this. And the other option is of doing a private clinical elective, which would give me the United States clinical experience also within LOR. Keeping in mind that next year after graduation, I will have 2 to 3 months when I can come back, however, only for observerships. Like my question is that at my level, at my stage, what would be a better option for me? To do the research elective and get a university academic LOR, or to do a private clinical elective and do get a United States clinical experience at this level? So,
what do you mean by, sorry, what do you mean by private clinical elective? Can you define?
Basically not hospital electives, just clinics which are opened by private physicians, and you rotate with them over there. Like this office in Dr. Rizvi, Dr. Wajir Rizvi, he has a private clinical elective as well.
You're not going to get an academic letter. You're gonna get a letter from some clinical experience in outpatient setting, but you're not going
yes, sir. Yes, exactly.
And the research opportunity that you have is that from a university hospital?
Hospital, yes, but it's for 4 weeks. So obviously, like 4 weeks aren't exactly that much to carry out researches of your own. So these are the two options that I have to choose from. So any guidance would really help.
And have you had any research experience at AKU?
Yes, I have had research experiences. I've written a few manuscripts. So I do have research experiences.
I think panel can go both ways. I would, just because you have research experience already, you have something to write in that section, I would go with the clinical elective, because that's something that is new for you, that you have not done before. So that is something that's going to add on to your CV. But I would see if the other panels have something else to.
I think one thing to know is, Hassan, what do you want to do?
Sir, sorry. Yeah, I want to do internal medicine, specifically cardiology, but obviously internal medicine right now.
Shahan, you were saying something?
Yeah, just want to know, this hospital-based research, does it has residency program residence, or is just hospital without residency?
Yes, it does have residency programs.
So that's the biggest impact. See, I would say go with the hospital, because that's your foot in the hospital to interact with the residents, build a rapport, even if it's 4 weeks and you are able to carve out a letter from a faculty from there. I would put all my money there.
All right.
I agree with that. I think
I was just going to say,
Shahan mentioned a very good point. I completely agree with you.
I was going to say the same thing, Hassan. Being involved in clinical research, don't underestimate the value of 4 weeks. And if this is the direction you want to go for it, because once you have your foot in, you can build on that. So you can maybe start a project in those 4 weeks, and then when you go back to Pakistan, or you can do something more remotely, just try to make some good connections, make a good impression. And my suggestion would be to go for the hospital.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Just one more question. I'm not sure if you guys would know this, but I'm basically here on a B1, B2 visiting visa. And next year, when I come back after graduation, there's a possibility of doing a hands-on clinical elective kind of thing, which is known as an externship. Now, I've been hearing a lot that from some places that you're not allowed to do externships on a B1, B2 visa, and in other regions, they're saying that you can do it. So would any of you know have any idea on this?
You cannot do extension. That's a bottom line. If you can do it, there is a big issue with the HIPAA regulations, where if you are a graduate. However, it's the way how you write the letters, and there are some hospitals, they can provide some extension. Despite being on in B1, B2, yes, you can find those rare programs. They sometimes can help the candidates to learn some experiences. But if you ask me a legal answer, my answer is you cannot because of some strict rules. But I have seen that people have done it. But I want to focus on how the letter is written in this situation. For example, the candidates who come with us, and I know that they are on B1, B2 visa, and they have to do research. And in the research, you don't have patient interaction. But I changed those LORs in a way that it looks like it that you have an interaction with the patient and you got an experience. Nobody will ask you about that. And that definition between the externship and observership in the internal medicine area, it all depends how the letter is written and how you drafted your CV. In the psychiatry and a different field, Shahan can give us a better idea. But in the medicine, I think it's an art how we write the letters and how you have worked with them. Because I give you my example. I was on B1 and B2, came in, and I did my research initially, and then I had a patient interaction. But that patient interaction is very limited. But the way the letter was written, in a way that I got has a experience in that area. I mean, it's not really a lie, and it's not really, and everything is perfect, but it's a wording that matters. How you write, how you draft the letter. Now, externship is an important part, but it's not necessary. As you know, in my presentation, I told you about the ECSMG mini-sex program, where somebody who has an attempt in the CS exam, they have to do to the 4 core competencies that any US physician can attest. So you can imagine how can you get that if you have B1 and B2 visa? You cannot otherwise. So that's a very open area where it all depends how you write, how you draft, and programs know that there are limitations. But the extent of limitation and extent of experience with a hand-on is a broad definition, how you describe it. That's what I would say.
I think I want to add to it. So I think when it comes towards externship, depends, are they going to give you access to the EMR or not? I think my understanding is you can do it unless until you're not getting paid. Because let's take the example of Providence Hospital in Washington, DC. They used to have this 3 months externship program. I have seen multiple good people doing a research on B1, B2 and doing externships. But as long as you are not getting paid, you don't have EMR access, I think it's okay to do it. But that's, again, a gray area, and that's my opinion.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We do have a couple of questions, and we have 10 minutes of our Q&A, but we'll also have a similar Q&A session at the end of the day. So I encourage you all to stick around for that. And again, also, if we don't get to your question during this session, we can use the Q&A box, and Dr. Ghulam Akbar, Dr. Shabir, and Dr. Shehzad have been answering a lot of questions in there, and you should also be able to see the answered questions. I have here Obaid Rahman, if you would like to unmute and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Obaid Rahman, and I'm a 4th-year medical student at a DO school here. Just would like to thank you all for your time and for all of the knowledge that you all have passed on to us. Really, really much appreciated, especially on a weekend. So thank you for that. I'm going to be applying to psychiatry this year for the match, and I was just wondering if anybody in particular with a psychiatry background could provide some advice or guidance to best apply for that.
Okay, I think I should take that question. So it's good to hear that you will be applying for psychiatry. I think we will be talking. There's a lecture after to talk about specialty. Definitely, we can go in depth, but with psychiatry, definitely a lot of things depend upon your mindset, and it's good that you already have that mindset from the beginning. We look at your clinical experience, your comfort level with the psych patients, and steps scores do play right now. Again, if I previously wasn't a very big deal, but now we are seeing a really high scores steps as well, and step 3 becomes a very crucial component as well. So having said that, there's a lot of things when, again, I don't know how your medical school is giving you experience in psychiatry rotation, because that's another thing. From my medical school, I remember only 2 weeks of psych, so we are not very much exposed to psychiatry patient as well, how it's practiced. So I think selecting the elective and rotations is another component, especially when you're in your 4th year, where you want to do the electives and all that. That's another crucial component, especially when you're in that stage. So we can definitely go in depth in that session. Because that will open up the entire session here. So I think that's a whole lecture on that.
Okay, awesome. And what time will that be at?
It's scheduled for 2 o'clock.
Okay, perfect.
Just 15 minutes from now.
All right, sounds good, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and then I have a question here from Rashan Zahid. I'm going to allow you to talk. If you can please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, first of all, for arranging this webinar. I'm an IMG from Pakistan, and I'm currently in US. I'm doing an observership here in Kentucky. I applied last year as well, but since I had never been to US and I didn't have any US LORs, so I didn't match. So I just wanted to ask about the personal statement. If I'm going around it for a second time, what can I do about it? It was kind of difficult writing it for the first time, but I don't know what to write in it for the second time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask the faculty to provide some general information, but we also have at, I apologize, 4 o'clock. So in maybe 3 hours, we'll have a session on personal statements as well. So hopefully that will help, but I'll open it up for general advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I would just quickly mention a point, because I think there's already a struggle in writing personal statement. If you're really worried about how to cover the gap of personal statement, I would say don't worry about that, because how competitive the whole residency is, the whole cycle, people know that it's a repeat application, but definitely that personal statement should reflect what you have been doing in that time frame and what you have improved in that whole past year. Don't use the same personal statement. That's the worst thing you can do at this point. Definitely take some professional advice, have people read it multiple times. Those are the few bullet points I would say, just to keep in mind. Okay. And the rest, I think they will be talking in the whole session on this.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And then I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. I have here Tabish A. Zaidi. I'm going to allow you to talk if you can please unmute.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So my question is, it kind of interlinks a bunch of different things. I'm a Caribbean medical student, and between my year 2 and year 3, I took a gap for a few years due to personal reasons. So now my question is this, that because based on how our curriculum it's very similar to the US curriculum. So we do our core clinicals in the US, we do our electives in the US. The step scores have to be there. So now I guess what I'm asking is that we kind of have to work on damage control a little bit, have to bridge that gap. You know, I took the few years off due to personal reasons. So now, in terms of strengthening the resume, how do I go upon doing that? So is it like, should I add more research in there? Should I do some extra electives in my free time or whatever extra time I have? How do I go upon strengthening the resume and sort of doing a little bit of damage control to make it stand out from the others?
Well, very good question. I think you need to personally call us to personally review your CV, what has happened, why you think it's a damage control, and that needs to be corrected. I think that's the whole. If you may, I ask your, if you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, like about your scores wise, and have you applied before, and how many years of graduation? That can help us to clarify what needs to be done.
Yes, definitely. So I did my undergrad. I am originally from Canada, so I did my undergrad in Canada in business commerce. Then I switched, after working in the financial industry for a while, I went into studying medicine. I did 2 years of the first 2 years in the Caribbean, and then the last 2 years we usually do in the US with our course and electives. So after finishing in the Caribbean, I came back to Canada and I started working again just because of financial reasons. I couldn't sustain going to the US and finishing the remainder of the 2 years. So I took a few years off to once again work in the financial industry and just save up. Only now I'm going back into it, and I'm actually about to do my step one in 1 month's time from now. So I don't have those scores yet, but other than that, I've been on the dean's list in my first 2 years, and I'm pretty sure I'll be okay for step one as well based on my current scores that I'm doing. So that's the update right now. But I have 2 years, I guess. What I'm saying is I have the 2 years, 3 and 4, to do somewhat of a damage repair for this gap that I took between my second and third year.
Okay. So first thing first, scores. Get a good scores first of all. That's your best damage repair. You have to get a good scores. The Caribbean grads generally have a better chances compared to IMGs to getting into the programs where they have rotated before, because you're done with your rotations. But I would be very careful taking Caribbean grads if they have a gap and do not have a good scores. I think I get it. You have a gap, but you can explain it. They ask, but if you really want to improve the things, this is all secondary. Dean's list, honors, scores. Please work on that. That's your first thing to do. If you get 260 plus, 250, 255, I think that question by itself will be not be a big deal, because you get to that level that you can prove. And I strongly recommend that preparing for an exam, get a good score, show your dedication. That's your first step. That's step one also you do with the full force, and step two as well. And once you get certified, then extra thing comes up, research and experiences. Because if you come up with this thought process that I need to damage control, I'm just worried that one attempt in an exam, that will be put you 10 times back. And then this will be very hard for you to get into the program. So start with a good exams. That's the only one thing I would say at this point.
I would actually... May I speak on this topic a little bit?
Yes, go ahead.
Faculty, first of all, assalamu alaikum to everybody. I just joined, so I don't know a whole lot. My name is Mujahid Abbas. I'm one of the surgeons here at University Hospitals in Cleveland. So to answer that question particularly, first of all, don't take it as a negative. There is plenty of US graduates who go into non-medical fields first. They do engineering, business. It's a very common theme, common story. You are not unique in that sense. The negative part probably is the break in between your medical school years. However, you can cover it up with a good story. If you can prove that you did it for certain valid reasons, make that part of your story. So your personal statement obviously is your story. You have a better chance than another IMG as mentioned before, because you will be doing your clinicals in USA. So make a strong relationship at whichever institute you go do your rotations. Obviously take more electives, especially if you are interested in a particular field. Also keep in mind, clinical medicine is only one part of the whole medical business. There is a bigger part of the clinical medicine, which is non-clinical, and that is the business aspect. And there is much more focus on it. If you can get admission at the same time in an MBA program from Harvard, Hopkins, or any other reputed institution, that will go very far. And there is a lot of opportunities in the administrative part of the medicine, becoming practice managers, becoming clinical managers, becoming even CEOs of the hospitals, clinical medical officers, chief medical officer, etc. There's plenty of opportunities. So wherever you go for your clinical rotations, find the business people there, meet them, tell them your story, and ask for opportunities. You can shadow one of them, the CEOs or CMOs or any of those people, and those letters will go very far. So you don't necessarily have to take it as a negative. This actually could be a blessing for you in disguise, that you were strong enough to leave this field, go make money for yourself, come back and apply again. So I would not necessarily look at it as a negative thing, but you got to make a strong story and make it part of your statement. And it should be obvious that why did you take that break and what actually you did to improve yourself and to improve your chances.
Thank you so much.
I agree with all that. I will just add one more thing. When we talk about gap year, we're talking about usually for IMGs, they graduate and then they match, and in between them there's a gap. For American medical graduates, they match in March, they graduate in May of that year, and they start their residency in July. So there's not much of a gap. For an average IMG, there's at least 1 to 2 years of gap, and sometimes longer. So that gap after graduation is what is more difficult to explain and why it's more difficult to digest for the program directors. Your gap is during your med school. So when you graduate, you got 2 more years. So you're going to graduate 2023. You, like American graduates, may start your residency in 23 or 24. And that way you will be in a different situation. So the gap year that we're talking about becomes a bigger problem is after graduation. So you have not even graduated yet. So don't put yourself that the 2 years is damage control and everything. You got a very good story. You just got to make sure that you put it properly. And you are already in a med school. So you're going to go back to med school and finish it. So you're going to graduate. From the time you graduate to the time of starting your residency, for an IMG, those years are very important. You don't want to waste any time there. And I think you'll be fine there if you plan. And again, as I completely agree with Dr. Mujahid and Dr. Shahzad, scores are the most important thing. So if you are getting good scores, you'll be in good shape. And it will be hard for anybody to ignore you just because of 2 years or 3 years during med school gap that you had. You'll be a good candidate, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
I just misunderstood one thing, that so you have a gap during your medical school, not from the time of graduation, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I have personally seen a lot of candidates like this, and also from Caribbean, also from the US grad, that they have a 1 year and then there is a break because of the financial reasons, and then they come back again, and they've very successfully matched to the programs. So again, I think if you have a gap in the medical school time and then you come up with this and get good scores and good credentials, I think it will come up. And one thing what Dr. Mujahid has mentioned, it makes a big point, like your specialty is financial side. All the hospitals, my colleague will agree, financial model is the key part. It's another part of the medicine, is the business of medicine, and a lot of us, we don't understand much. You have the plus point in this area and you can sell it during your interview.
Thank you so much for the insight, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll take another question. I have Zahra here. I'm going to allow you to speak if you can unmute, please.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for taking my question. I was internal medicine resident at Shifa International Hospital in Pakistan. I have two pertinent questions, if that's okay. My first question is, how do I justify leaving my home IM residency for the US if I state that my home residency program was good as well?
I don't understand the question. Like home residency, you meaning, in Pakistan?
Yes, I was already a resident in internal medicine in Pakistan at Shifa International Hospital.
Okay.
And they're going to ask me about it because I'm going to put it on my CV. My main concern was if they asked me why did I leave that residency program, if I stated that it was a good residency program as well, and I learned a lot from it.
No, but that is exactly what we're talking about. You have to figure out what you want. Why are you coming to the US? So, I mean, I'm not for the CV. This is just a personal discussion between you and your friends and your parents. So why do you want to come to the US? You're coming here for what? For better training?
I wanted better training. My attendings in Shifa, they were attendings from here who went back to Pakistan, and all of them told me that I should go for the USMLE. When I used to present my patients, they encouraged me a lot that I would flourish if I go there. I don't have a lot of US clinical experience. I only have one clinic experience, which would be an observership. So I was wondering, how do I justify this? That if I haven't actually seen people practicing in the US, how do I justify that, I want to switch from a good residency program from Pakistan to the US?
You just did. You just justified
Would this be enough that I want better training?
Yeah. You just said that you've never been to the US, but you've seen the product of US graduate medical residency. You've seen doctors in US who are Pakistani trained, US trained, working in Pakistan, making a difference, and providing good care. And you wanted to provide that. You wanted to get that level of training. That's why you came from there to here.
Okay, thank you. Would it matter if I didn't complete my residency though? I had a 2-year program, and I had a further fellowship in cardiology. I completed around 8 months of that, and I had to shift here in the US.
And that's where the panel can have different opinions.
If you don't mind, I will intervene. So you already have told your story, as you're saying. So you have to basically, interview is selling yourself. You're telling, why do you want to take me? So when you go and interview with the program, so you have your reasons. So make a short story, and it should be honest, so that, because you're going to be repeating it again and again and again, and that's where people make mistake. So don't make a novel story, just a short story, and you tell them, these are the reasons I migrated, I moved, I left my country, and I'm here now. You can add a little bit of sympathy factor, this and that, on all those things if they're real. At the same time, the reasons all of us have come here are pretty much the same. We wanted better training. Sometimes we wanted a better quality of life. Some of us may have ran away from persecution or other things. So all those things are pretty much similar all across the board. So you have to put it together, make it short, succinct, and a good story, which is believe-worthy as well. And you tell them that you regret or you are sorry that you left that opportunity. And that is where you actually want to gain a little bit of sympathy from the person sitting on the other side, that because of the circumstances, you had to leave a position which you had worked all your medical years and your education and your life there and all this stuff, but then you had to leave it for whatever reasons. Those reasons, you have to put together what you are going to tell them. And now you are here and you want to continue your opportunity to learn and serve the human beings. It doesn't matter whether you are in homeland or here now. Maybe this is your homeland now. So just put that story together. And this is not unique. All of us have done the same. And all of us have come from the similar kind of backgrounds. And this is all pretty much same. This is what they ask you in the interview. Okay, tell us about yourself. And that's your opportunity to tell your story in 2 minutes.
So I have another question though. The reason for leaving my residency was because I was supposed to give my step one and I had to join a CDC internship that I actually got. But a day before my flight, the flights were canceled because of COVID and I had to leave my residency. I had to give them prior notice for it. So after leaving my residency, I was stuck in Pakistan for about 8 months before I could actually travel. In that time, I did open a clinic at my own home, and I invited my fellow colleagues who were in Shifa. We had a 1 week on and a 1 week off in COVID times. And in their 1 week off, we used to come and help the local community. And we used to give free checkups so that they don't go to local hospitals. But I don't have proof that we did this because it was in my own home. We weren't dependent on anybody. It was our own finances that we were spending on these patients. If I do write that as a volunteer experience in that COVID time in which I was not employed by Shifa, how do I prove that? Will they ask for proof?
I don't think you need to prove it. I think if you did it, just be honest. If you did it and then you write it and you just like you described it to us, week on, week off, whatever, you just make a succinct paragraph of that. You can put it on PS, personal statement. It looks good there too. You can put your application and then in ERA CV as well. But yeah, I don't think you need a certificate to certify these kind of things. This is one of the things which is different in US compared to other countries. They will take your word for it. You can write whatever you want, but do not lie because you will get caught. And even if one word in the application, they can prove that it's a lie, the rest of you lose basically the entire credentials. You completely lose their trust and they won't trust anything else. So write whatever is truth. You don't have to be able to prove it. There have to be a certificate for everything. But you should still stick to the truth because you sound like you've done a good job, something a commendable job, and that across the board, wherever you go, people will appreciate that. So there's nothing wrong with not having proof about it. You did it yourself, you did it on your own, you can easily write it. I think that's reasonable.
I agree 100%.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what the doc just said. It's a volunteer experience, so you should absolutely list it because it helped shape what you were doing and another reason why you want to come here. So it actually strengthens and bolsters your application. Just because you don't have the proof of it, that's fine. Now, if there were any of your colleagues or if there was a supervisor that could testify that you did this, then that's great. But if not, it's okay. It's a volunteer experience. You should include it in your application.
My dad is actually an internal medicine consultant. He was stuck in Pakistan with me during that time. He usually practices in Saudi Arabia. So me and him were actually running the clinic together. But I was thinking that this would be biased if I give my father as a reference.
Correct, you're right. If there's any non-family members that you could use as a reference that were there with you, that would be better. I would not use your father.
Yes, the colleagues, okay. The last question I do have is, I wrote a book chapter with an attending on transesophageal echocardiography. It was a beginning chapter, it wasn't very advanced, but the book is not published as yet. It's still in its editing phase. Will that count on my CV at all? It's not published. Should I even list it?
You should. It's a work and effort that should absolutely be listed in your CV, even if it's not published. You spent your own personal time in putting this together, and inshallah one day it will be published. But just because it's not published, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be listed on your CV.
Should I give the attending's reference that if you want to refer to this, you can actually contact the attending whom I did this project with?
You do not need to you do not need to list the attending's name or reference, but at the end of your CV, you can put references available upon request. And whoever wants to contact that person, you can then give them that information separately, but it doesn't have to necessarily be on your CV. If you want to just list the person who was in a supervisory role, you can list their name, but you do not have to list their contact information. Those references should be available upon request only in your CV.
Okay, and my last question, I'm sorry, I have so many. I don't have any US clinical experience except one local clinic one like Hassan just described. My LORs are going to be home LORs from my program director in Shifa and a cardiologist from Shifa and a neurologist from Shifa. Would these LORs be equivalent to the ones if I had gotten from the US. They are US attendings, but they're not practicing in the US. They're currently in Pakistan now. So would they carry weightage? Because I've heard that home LORs don't carry as much weightage as US LORs.
That's correct. But you have what you can do other than that. You don't have any other, you have no choice. But I would suggest that you are in the training right now, right? In the FCPS training or something you're doing?
Yes, it was FCPS, but I left it 8 months in because I had to travel here and join a CDC internship.
Okay, I got your point. First of all, I think if you can get a letter from your training director, who when you were in the FCPS training, how you were training, that actually be very useful for you because people will look into that. I think you really have to work on interview skills. I mean, I can see where the issue can come up in your case. You have to be a good listener. Try that. Not a good talker. That's very important for interviews.
Yes, sir.
Just see what happens. How observe what other people are saying. And first point, what Dr. Bukhari has mentioned, that ask yourself why you want to come into the US. Because, if you say that, I'm coming here for better training, but then the other thought was, I'm already getting a good training in my country, why I need to come in. I think that will create more concern that the candidate is undecided. And that will go against your application, that people will not take you. And despite what you have done it, I'm not being negative, but I'm just giving you a caution here that what I hear in the conversation. Now, the second thing is, if you tell the program that I'm going to do my training and go back again to my country, that can go both ways. Many times it can go negative because we are training somebody, because I'm in a director position, so I can tell you, if I like to take a candidate, I will be trying my best. After the fellowship, he stay with us or he stay in our country. But if your goal is, no, I'm going to get it trained and go back and serve my country, it can go either way. I mean, some programs are okay with that. They say, yes, it's good. They want to go and serve country. But you have to look at it that we are also going through the economic problems. And country is evolving. A lot of funding is an issue. The number of candidates in the residency program. So a lot of money Medicare is paying for the candidates to be trained. So a lot of focus is on retain the candidates as much as we can. So you have to be very political here. What you would say to the program. And the third thing is why you left the training 8 months ago. I mean, you share your story, but it has to be very valid reason. Program like to take you if you're already a fellowship trained, because that's how they introduce that patient is a fellowship trained and has done this type of training. It's always good to have a complete training, but now it's done. You've been have some level of training already in the country, but when you come in here, you really have to be shine what you want to do, what you like to do, why US, and look at the books. There are ISSN Guide to the Residency Interview Skills. These are the questions there, that how to answer the question. It's a preparation. It's not only be yourself, yes you are, but you have to know each answer, like how to say the wording. Each word will count, like is yes and no, either way, and be a good listener. It's very important. Listen, so that don't volunteer the information unless it's been asked to you, because that can go negative.
Both ways, yeah.
One thing, just one point I want to mention is, I think Dr. Raza obviously just filtered out everything. Whatever good you have, and then the feedback he gave, I think it's really important. And it goes for all the candidates. But one thing which you have to understand is the programs in the United States are looking for a committed candidate, a person who's applying, no matter whether it's a university program or a community program. They want the candidate to be really committed. Whatever your reasons are for leaving your program or then leaving the training in mid, like, again, there will be questioning this, and you have to have a valid reason. Because there is a fear. What if in the second year training, third year training, you want to switch. Like again,
Mm.
it rarely happens, but again, when things like that are on the plate, they will be questioning these switches and everything. So be whatever Dr. Raza and Dr. Bukhari mentioned, I agree. Dr. Jaffrey made really good points as well. Uh, just work on few skills.
Yes.
And I would also add to that, what everyone else has said is just be prepared. You have to review your CV. You have to have your personal statement proofread, and you have to work on your interview skills. Go through mock interviews. IMI offers some of these services as well. We have done mock interviews in the past, and hopefully we'll do virtual mock interviews as well at some point this year. But preparation is key. And in addition to commitment is absolutely important. And if you're not committed, it's going to show right away. But you have to be prepared. This is a very important opportunity for you. Inshallah, you'll do well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we'll take.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I'm cutting you off. Thank you for taking my questions. They were very helpful. And thank you for arranging all of this. We really do appreciate this. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. If we can get, I'm going to call up Shazan Nadeem, if you can unmute and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for that. Thank you for the very insightful and useful talk today. Everyone's been very helpful. So my name's Shazan. I'm a fourth year medical student going into fifth year. And my question is for the medical students. Is there any forum where the medical students present here today can discuss and share ideas and about their journey in applying to the US as international medical graduates?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll in the follow-up email, I'll share a WhatsApp, like an invite code, and then perhaps we can use like a WhatsApp as like a forum for that. But we'll make sure, and that and whatever other forum that exists, I'll make sure that there's something for you to follow up with.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, and then I have Dr. Sana Zehra, if you can please.
Sorry, just one more question. I think one of the doctors previously mentioned about how important mentorship is in applying to the US. So how can we approach a mentor and develop that kind of relationship? If you have any useful advice or anything about that, I would really appreciate it.
Luck and efforts. Those two words I would say here is involved. Each person has an individual story they can tell. Like, mentorship from background. If your background country is Pakistan, India, I mean, you start your mentorship from your own medical school with your senior, with your program. You establish yourself working with them, and the way one of the candidates mentioned, like from your seniors, do some research projects, and then you start approaching. If your final destination is US, you want to come here, you start emailing them and contacting them. But how? So give you my example so that it will just give you one idea, and then you can make your own way what you feel it, and everybody has different approach. I came in here on B1, B2. I sent 2,000 emails because I want to do research. I didn't find any mentor. So out of 2,000 emails, 5 people reach out to me that they say, okay, we have this type of research. Can you work with us? And I say, all right, I can work with you. And I was on B1, B2 visa. And then they say, okay, we have an oncology research in the brain tumor. I said, fine, I can work with you. But they asked my commitment that 2 years, I will just focus on research. I will not do residency training. We did that. Now, they changed my visa and changed me to an H1B visa. And you know that from B1, B2 to H1B visa, it's very hard. And in 6 months, I got the green card after that because we published so many papers. Now, how I get to those mentors? Only because I had a prior research experience. I went to the PubMed and I look at it, what I want to do. And I look at the senior authors where they're publishing it, because they have sometimes grants. They have sometimes opportunities because they are published people. They can actually invite based on your CV, and if your goals are matching, there is a very likely possibility you get a response and you can move on. That's one way of looking into the things. The second way is your relatives or third person, somebody who know background, or a person whom you know that okay, he's doing it, can involve you and teach you. Having a right mentor and the mentor that helps you, it's a career change. That's where I would say that it's a lot of search, lot of efforts, lot of emails, and it comes from you, not from us. I have always seen those who have this type of realization. They say, forget about it. I just need some idea. I will work my own way and find it. And those are very successful. It can take a long way, but these are the ways I look at it. Big institutions, top institutions, as Dr. Hasni was mentioning it in his presentation, and connections. And that's one way. And then other ways, look at the PubMed, look at the senior authors, reach out to them and match your goals, what you want to do. And then this is how you can get good mentorship and you can grow. That's what, in my opinion.
So I want to add something. So I think definitely, as mentioned, Shahzad mentioned that you have to do a mega emails. So how you can look it up, the emails, you just go to the university websites, like the hospital websites, and there they have the name of the attendings there. And then depending upon the name of the attending, you can search him in PubMed. Anyone who has like 50 or 100 publications, I think he would be very well connected in the US. He would be very well connected in his field, and that person would be able to help you get into residency as well. So that's one way. And the these in Boston program, they have the website which I just shared in the chat group. So there, if you go, it's because they have a lot of funding always, like Boston programs have more funding. So they have a lot of research opportunities. If you go on that website and just search the attending name, it will show up like if they have any current research going on, how many funding they have. And depending upon that, you can just email everyone and then hope for the best. Definitely, you have to email at least 1,000 to 2,000 to find 5 replies. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you so much for your answers.
Thanks. And then we have a question from Dr. Sana Zehra, and then one from the question and answer box. So Dr. Sana, if you can
Hello,
unmute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. We can hear you.
Yeah. Am I audible? Okay. So first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for being so helpful. I actually have 3 questions. So I wanted to know, should I ask them one by one, or should I just state the questions together and then the panel can answer them?
Perhaps you can do all 3.
Okay. So all 3 of the questions are centered towards this one thing, that I'm a person who wants to pursue general surgery. And I have LORs from subspecialty like cardiac surgery and neurosurgery. So firstly, I wanted to ask if that is going to work when I'm going to apply for general surgery. My second question is getting an LOR from my hometown, as in like I'm from Karachi. So getting an LOR from of general surgery from Karachi, from a hospital of Karachi, and getting LOR from US from a subspecialty. Which one of these weigh more? And my third question is, actually, when you talk about pursuing general surgery in US, people discourage you a lot. So I actually want the opinion from the panel as to, what should be done, because, most of the people actually discourage you, saying that the chances are quite low. So I do want to have an opinion from the panel to please help me accordingly. Thank you.
Can you tell us your first question, please, again?
So
Sure.
I will take these questions if panel agrees, as I mentioned earlier. I went through the same track which any other foreign graduate goes through to get into surgical residency, fellowship, etc. So to start with the LORs, your LORs, if they are written well from a US writer, they obviously are superior to any LOR you get from home country. That's one thing. Second, your story. Why are you getting an LOR from a neurosurgeon if you want to apply in general surgery? So your story should match, and you should mention it in your story. That story is your statement and your interview time. So you should state that you are so much interested in general surgery. However, you tried all around, you could not find any observerships. The only observerships you got were in neurosurgery, and that's why you have a letter from a neurosurgeon. In terms of how you get into how competitive it is, etc., it is extremely competitive. You are most likely not going to match with the categorical program in the first year of application. Probably better way would be starting with finding a good institution where you can do some research. So if you spend a year in research, that consolidates your experience in USA, makes you able to get some letters, you get some publications out, and above all, your best opportunity would be in the institution where you're doing your observership or your research, because those people now know you and they are invested in you. Keep in mind, if you work, most of the time this research is going to be free. They're not going to pay you for that. That's another thing to keep in mind. Paid research spots are very few and far, and they are only most of the time reserved for residents now. For example, we have a 7 years residency program instead of 5, because residents will go out to do research for 2 years. So where there's not enough funding out there that they can give research position out there. But then there are certain places or people who have funding or enough funding that they can hire or keep research scholars. If you're lucky, you can find a paid spot, but be prepared to work without pay for a year or 2 even. And when you are invested in and you have worked that hard, you have written 5 papers with some senior faculty member, now they feel morally it's their obligation, it's their responsibility that they have to help you out. And they were literally in their communications with other programs, they'll mention it, that this person is so dedicated that they have spent 2 years with us without any pay, and they have worked hard. We know them firsthand. That will go in your favor more than anything else. So if you really want to do surgery, find a research spot. There is no way around it. If you're lucky, you may get a residency spot, but that's very difficult. Other way of it is getting a preliminary position. And if you work hard enough, which everybody does, quite frankly. So I will give you an example of myself. We were 10 preliminary residents, and there was 1 categorical position. So you can imagine 10% chance of getting that position only. So, and even if you are good, it doesn't mean you will get it, because there are 9 other competitive people there. So that is another way of doing 1 year of prelim, or even repeating it another year, and then you eventually keep on applying here and there. So you have to get your foot in the door. Research is the best opportunity. Preliminary surgery position is the second opportunity for you to get into a surgical residency program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mujahid. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.